A man who once shaped the company's client culture is now being erased from it. They called it a restructuring, but I knew what it really was the second I walked into that conference room and saw Dominic Hayes sitting at the head of the table, not Arthur. No coffee, no greetings, just a thin file folder with my name on it. After 26 years at Franklin and Associates, I didn't even get a handshake. My name is David Marks. I'm 59 years old, and until this morning, I was director of client strategy for one of Boston's most respected consulting firms. I've lived in Cambridge with my wife, Laurel, since the late 90s. Raised both our kids here. Built everything I had around this job, the people, the routine, the pride. This isn't easy, Dominic said, sliding the folder across the table. His tie was too sharp, his smile too mechanical. But the firm's evolving. We're trimming the fat. Trimming the fat. That's how he said it. Like I was excess. Something to be scraped off for the sake of cleaner numbers. I opened the folder. 8-week severance. Benefits through the quarter. A list of transition contacts. That was it. Dominic, I said quietly, trying to steady my voice. I've led strategy for every major client relationship this firm has had since '03. I built the Westgate model. I led the Folsom merger integration. I trained your entire junior team. What the hell are you doing? He didn't blink. The firm thanks you for your service. No one else from leadership came. No Arthur. No legal. Just Dominic. And a HR rep who looked like she wanted to crawl into the carpet. A security guard stepped in after 10 minutes. Dominic gave a polite nod. They'll help you gather your things, he said, standing. I didn't move at first. I just sat there, staring at the table, trying to process what had just happened. After 26 years, they were going to walk me out like I'd stolen something. The guard cleared his throat gently. Sir, I'm just here to assist. I nodded, slowly, got up, picked up the folder. My legs moved on autopilot. My office was already half-packed. Someone had gone through and started boxing things up. My nameplate was gone from the door. I pulled out my phone, more to feel grounded than anything else. And then it buzzed. A text from Catherine Winters. Catherine Winters, 11:42 a.m., just heard. You better have a damn good explanation. I didn't sign on to be managed by children. Call me. Now. I stared at the screen. She was Franklin and Associates' largest client. Catherine doesn't send texts like that unless the stakes are high. Dominic had no idea what kind of hornet's nest he'd just kicked. I shoved the folder into the cardboard box, slammed it shut, and looked around the room one last time. The photos, the awards, the books I'd collected from 3 decades of relationships, they were all just clutter now. But Catherine's text? That was the first thing that didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the beginning of something new. Plot twist, as he's packing up, the firm's top client texts him directly, demanding answers. Summary, David, a seasoned client strategist, is terminated under the guise of restructuring by a new executive team chasing short-term gains. His legacy and dignity are shoved into a cardboard box. Back home, I sat in the den with a cup of black coffee, staring at the framed newspaper clipping on the wall. Local firm lands Fortune 500 client, credits longtime strategist. That was from 2009. Arthur had sent a handwritten note with it back then. You're the anchor of our reputation, David. I used to believe him. Laurel walked in quietly, carrying a fresh pot. She didn't say anything, just filled my mug and gave my shoulder a squeeze. You want to talk about it? She asked after a moment. Not yet. I needed time to sit with the sting. 26 years, gone in 15 minutes. Dominic hadn't even let me finish the sentence before he pushed that damned folder at me. No warning, no decency, just a spreadsheet-level decision from someone who saw people as line items. I leaned back and closed my eyes, letting the weight settle. The memories came fast and sharp. The early days, when there were only 12 clients and the office ran on takeout and sleepless ambition. Arthur used to call me the bridge, the one who turned cold pitches into trust and handshakes. I remembered when we landed Minstone. Arthur called me from the tarmac. Said he'd never seen a client convert faster. Said I was the reason. That Arthur? I hadn't seen him in months. Over the past year, Dominic had been working quietly. At first it was subtle, removing me from certain client meetings, claiming it was to give the junior team runway. Then he reassigned the Winston accounts to a guy named Kyle who thought charm meant quoting McKinsey tweets. I bit my tongue, told myself it was just evolution. But inside, I knew. Then came the internal joke I overheard last November. I had ducked into the kitchen early and heard Dominic on the phone. We've got legacy fat to trim. These old dogs don't know when to sit. He was talking about me. Now here I was, sitting in my own house like some exiled patriarch, while the firm marched on without me. Laurel cleared her throat. You should call Catherine. I know, I said. She already texted. I picked up my phone again. The message stared back at me like a live wire. Catherine Winters wasn't someone who fired off casual threats. She was methodical, loyal, and utterly ruthless when crossed. She was the client I'd built the deepest trust with. 10 years of strategic work, private dinners, even navigating her CEO transition. She was more than a client. I dialed. She answered on the second ring. David. Her voice was tight. I was going to call you later this afternoon, I said. No. You're going to explain what the hell just happened. I exhaled. They let me go this morning. Called it restructuring. Silence. They've reassigned your account, I added. To Kyle Jenkins. Catherine actually laughed sharp, incredulous. Kyle? The one who called me ma'am and pitched TikTok strategy to my 50-year-old board. Yeah, that one. Another pause. Let me make this very clear, David. I signed with Franklin and Associates because of you. Not their brand. Not their deck. You. I appreciate that. No, you don't get it. If you're out, I'm out. My hand gripped the phone tighter. I don't know what I'm doing next. Well, she said, voice softening slightly. When you figure it out, call me. She hung up. I looked over at Laurel, who was now sitting across from me, watching. She's walking, I said. She's not staying with them. Laurel smiled faintly. So they didn't just let you go. They let you take something with you. No, not something. Someone. Hook. David realizes his professional value was never truly seen by the new regime. Plot twist. Catherine Winters insists she'll follow him, not the firm. Summary. David's reflections turned to realization. The new leadership didn't just let him go. They underestimated the weight of client trust. And that's about to cost them. By Wednesday morning, my inbox had turned into a reunion tour. The first email came from Ross Ellman over at Beacon Industrial. Just one line. Heard what happened. Let's talk. Then came Carla Lee from Palmetto Capital. We never liked Dominic. What are you doing next? By noon, I'd counted 14 messages, all from past or current clients. Every single one of them had heard, and not one of them had been contacted by the firm. Not one. Franklin and Associates hadn't even bothered with a courtesy call. It was spreading the way real news spreads in this business, through whispers, dinner tables, golf carts. Loyalty doesn't die when a nameplate is pulled off a door. It travels, quietly, firmly. I was sitting in my home office, the one Laurel had always said I should use more often, when her voice called down the hallway. You've got a message. Somebody named Goldstein. That made me sit up straighter. Catherine Goldstein wasn't just anybody. She was the headhunter in Boston, luxury clients, discreet poaching, big checks. If she was reaching out, it wasn't for coffee. I opened my phone. Her message was brief but personal. Catherine Goldstein. 1:03 p.m. David, I've already had calls about you from 3 firms. I'd like to buy you dinner. No pressure, just options. Let me know. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the message, letting it settle in. It wasn't the dinner invite that got me. It was what it meant. I'd been written off as outdated. Legacy fat. But now, the market wanted me more than ever. I texted her back. Would love to talk. When and where? She replied within minutes. Friday. Back room at Sorrel. 7 p.m. That night, I walked into Sorrel wearing the same tailored blazer I'd worn for my last major pitch at Franklin. The place was dim, elegant, and private. The maitre d' nodded and led me to a side booth. Catherine Goldstein stood to greet me, tall, polished, red lipstick like a signature. David, she said warmly, extending her hand. You've had an interesting week. You could say that. We ordered wine, her choice, of course, and within 5 minutes she got to the point. I have 3 offers on the table for you, she said. All director or partner level. All with full discretion to build your own client wing. I raised an eyebrow. That fast? You'd be amazed how quickly the right people move when the wrong firm makes a mistake. Word is, Catherine Winters is out. That alone spooked 2 CEOs. I took a sip of wine. What are we talking? Salary? Scope? She slid 3 folders across the table. Base north of 550. Bonuses structured around growth. One firm wants you purely for client retention. The other 2 are hoping you'll poach half of Franklin's legacy portfolio. I chuckled. That sounds vindictive. It's business, she said, smiling. But if you're looking for something different, one of them is offering more than money. I flipped open the last folder. Blackwell Consulting. I'd heard the name before, a boutique firm, newer, but gaining ground fast. The CEO was ex-McKinsey, and rumor had it they were scouting talent for a major expansion. What's the angle? I asked. Equity, she said. Real equity. A full partner seat. Autonomy. Build it your way. I let the silence hang between us. She leaned in slightly. They're offering a clean runway. No Dominic. No hierarchy games. Just you and the clients who trust you. It was tempting. More than that, it was electric. I thought of Arthur's old words again. Anchor of our reputation. Well, Franklin had cut the anchor, but the tide hadn't pulled me under. It had just sent me in a new direction. I closed the folders gently. I'll take the weekend to think it over. Catherine nodded. Of course. But if I may, David, the right time isn't coming. It's here. And the people who matter? They're already waiting for you. Hook. The man written off as outdated is now the most sought-after name in Boston consulting. Plot twist. One firm, Blackwell Consulting, offers equity and full autonomy. Summary. As David's network rallies behind him, the market reaffirms his worth, something Franklin and Associates failed to do. Arthur Franklin called me from London 3 days after the offers came in. His voice was gravelly as ever, but there was a tension in it I hadn't heard before. David, he said, we need to talk. I was sitting in the kitchen, watching the kettle steam when the call came. I hadn't heard from Arthur since before the restructuring. Honestly, I didn't expect to ever hear from him again. I figured you were done with me, I said. I wasn't even told you were being let go, he snapped. I found out from Catherine Winters. I didn't respond. Let him sit in the weight of it. She told me she's pulling her contract, he added, and that it's because you're gone. That's her choice. Damn it, David, he growled. That account was the cornerstone of our revenue. Do you understand what this means? Yeah, I said. It means Dominic screwed up, and you let him. Silence. Then a sigh that sounded like it had aged him another 10 years. Can we meet? We met for lunch at an old steakhouse downtown. One of those spots where the booths are so high, you forget anyone else exists. Arthur was already seated when I arrived, suit immaculate, tie slightly loosened in that effortless executive way. He stood when he saw me, like nothing had changed. Thanks for coming, he said. I nodded but didn't shake his hand. We ordered. He skipped the pleasantries. I'll cut to it, he said. Dominic's out of control. He's moving to push me out. Consolidating power, shifting board influence. The layoffs? I didn't sign off on them, including yours. You signed off on Dominic, I said flatly. You backed him. That's what matters. Arthur looked tired, older than I remembered. I thought he'd bring operational discipline. I didn't realize he'd got the heart of the firm. No, I said. You realized. You just didn't care until it hit your numbers. That hit him. He didn't deny it. After a long pause, he leaned in. David, I want you back. I raised an eyebrow. Chief Client Officer, he said, reporting directly to me. No more Dominic. No more layers. Help me stabilize things. Help me protect what we built. I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't offering because he believed in me. He was offering because he was scared. He was losing control, and he thought I could buy him time. You're not trying to fix the firm, I said. You're trying to save yourself. Arthur blinked. That's not fair. It's accurate. He rubbed his forehead. Look, I know I should have done more, but we still have something, David. You and me. We built this place. No, I said quietly. We did. But then you let someone else tear it down. And now that it's burning, you want me to run back into the fire. I'm offering you a lifeline. I picked up my napkin, folded it neatly. Feels more like a rope around my neck. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Arthur spoke again. Softer. If you walk away now, you're giving Dominic everything. I stood. No. I'm taking everything he doesn't understand. Relationships, trust, history. That's what he never valued. And that's why it's already slipping away. Hook. Arthur needs David to cover the damage Dominic's strategy has caused. Plot twist. David sees that Arthur's loyalty to the firm's new investors outweighed his loyalty to old allies. Summary. The founder's pitch rings hollow. David understands he's no longer being valued for who he is, only for what he can repair. The offers sat on my desk all weekend, each folder marked up with notes and questions. I reread them like blueprints, looking for fault lines, hidden traps, anything that felt like another Franklin and Associates situation dressed in better suits. But none of them felt like that. Blackwell's packet was the only one that made me pause, not in doubt, but in possibility. They didn't just want a strategist. They wanted a partner. The CEO's note was handwritten. We don't build silos here. We build legacies. Let's make something that lasts. Short, direct. Unlike Arthur, this guy wasn't offering a return to what I had. He was offering a clean break from it. On Sunday afternoon, Laurel found me in the den, still staring at the folders. You already know which one you're taking, she said. I looked up. Do I? She smiled. You've read the Blackwell one 4 times. That's not indecision. That's hope. She wasn't wrong. Still, part of me hesitated. Not because I doubted the offer, but because of everything I'd left behind. 2 decades of routines, of building things from scratch, of watching Franklin and Associates become what it was. Could I really just let that go? Then Laurel handed me her phone. Look at this, she said. It was a post on LinkedIn from someone inside FNA, anonymously written, but clearly from someone senior. When client trust becomes a spreadsheet line item, you've already lost the game. The comments were worse. Catherine Winters walked out mid-meeting today. 2 partners are reconsidering renewal. A dozen associates are exploring options. The place was bleeding out. Dominic hadn't just failed to replace me, he'd broken the quiet contract that held the firm together. Clients didn't stay for the logos. They stayed for the people, for the names they trusted when the stakes were high. I picked up my phone and called Catherine Goldstein. "Tell Blackwell I'm in," I said. There was a pause, then her voice sharpened. "Terms as offered?" "Almost. One condition." "Let's hear it." "I want an acquisition clause. Optional. Quiet. But I want Blackwell positioned to buy out Franklin and Associates if it comes to that." "You're serious?" "Dead serious. If it falls, I don't want to watch it happen. I want to catch it and fix what's worth saving." There was a long silence on her end. Then, "I'll get it done." 2 hours later, the final paperwork arrived. I signed it while Laurel poured 2 glasses of wine. "To Blackwell?" she asked. I nodded. "To building it right this time," I said. Hook. David won't just accept a job. He'll reshape the playing field. Plot twist. His condition involves an acquisition clause targeting Franklin and Associates. Summary. David decides not to return to his old firm. Instead, he backs Blackwell with a quiet power move, absorbing the firm that once discarded him. The all-hands meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. Nobody said what it was about, but word spread like smoke, fast and choking. Dominic had been off the floor all morning. The partners were unusually quiet. Some staff whispered that Arthur was back in town. Others said Catherine Winters had officially terminated her contract. No one knew anything for sure, except me. I walked through the glass front doors of Franklin and Associates in a tailored navy suit. My old ID badge had been deactivated, but someone from Blackwell was already waiting in the lobby with a new one. Security nodded. Funny how quickly you stop being invisible when you own the keys. The elevators dinged open to the 22nd floor. Familiar faces turned to stare. Some looked relieved, others confused. A few, the ones closest to Dominic, just looked scared. "David?" A junior associate asked. "Are you back?" "Something like that," I said. The main conference room was already half full. Arthur was seated at the head of the table, flanked by 2 board members. He stood when I entered, offering a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "David," he said loudly, projecting to the room. "We're all very pleased to announce the return of one of this firm's most respected leaders. David will be rejoining us in an executive capacity to help stabilize client trust." Whispers buzzed like static. People glanced at each other. I didn't sit down. "Actually," I said calmly, "I won't be rejoining Franklin and Associates." The room stilled. Arthur blinked. "Excuse me." I turned to the full crowd. "I'm here today as a representative of Blackwell Consulting." Someone in the back actually gasped. I let the moment settle before continuing. "As of this morning, Blackwell Consulting, via Horizon Capital, has acquired a controlling interest in Franklin and Associates." Arthur froze. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "The acquisition closed at 9:17 a.m. But," Arthur stammered, "this firm isn't for sale. It didn't need to be. Your board was." He paled. Dominic burst into the room like someone had lit his office on fire. "What the hell is this?" He was flushed, tie loosened, phone still in hand. "You're bluffing." "No, Dominic. You are," I said. "You bet everything on a numbers game and forgot about the relationships that kept this place alive. You burned trust, and now the clients are burning you." "Arthur," Dominic barked. "Tell them this is ridiculous." Arthur didn't respond. His silence said everything. One of the partners stood. "Is this official?" "Yes," I replied. "Nothing changes immediately. No mass layoffs. No public announcements. But there will be a transition, and I'll be leading it." Murmurs rippled through the room. Some people looked stunned. Others looked relieved. Dominic's voice cracked. "You can't do this. This is my firm." "No," I said, stepping closer. "It never was. You were just a placeholder." A few employees actually clapped, quiet, stunned, but real. Dominic looked around, suddenly realizing no one was backing him. Not even Arthur. "Security will escort you out," I added. "Your access has already been disabled." "Unbelievable," he hissed. "No," I said, "inevitable." He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed like a full stop. I turned back to the room. "If you're here to do good work, your place is secure. But make no mistake, this isn't a rescue. It's a rebuild." People nodded. The energy shifted, fear turning to cautious optimism. Arthur finally spoke. Quiet. Defeated. "So that's it. For you," I said. "Not quite. We'll talk." Hook. The man they fired now controls their future. Plot twist. Blackwell didn't just hire David. They bought the whole firm to get him back. Summary. In a stunning reversal, David returns not as an employee, but as the face of the company acquiring his former firm. The move is professional, surgical, and devastating. Arthur requested a private meeting the next morning. His assistant left a message on my phone that said he wanted to clear the air. I agreed, but only because I wanted to finish the job the right way. He waited for me in his old corner office, the one that overlooked the skyline like it still meant something. The blinds were drawn. He didn't stand when I entered, just gestured to the chair across from him like we were picking up from some cordial disagreement. I sat down. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. So, was this your plan the whole time? No, I said plainly. My plan was to finish out my career with integrity. Your guy changed that. Arthur shook his head slowly. This wasn't just business, David. This was a coup. No, I replied. This was a correction. His face darkened. You think you're better than all of us? I think I know what this firm used to stand for. You forgot. You don't know what it's like, he said, voice rising. The pressure I've been under. From investors. From the board. I had to make choices. You made the wrong ones, I said. You put profit over people. You put Dominic in charge because he told you what you wanted to hear. Arthur stood now, pacing slowly behind his desk. You could have come to me. We could have worked something out. I did come to you. Every time you looked the other way. Every time you let Dominic sideline me. You just didn't want to listen. He stopped pacing. So what now? You tossed me out too. I took a breath. No, you're not being tossed. But you're done calling shots. He waited, arms folded, jaw tight. I'm offering you a consulting role, I said. Non-executive. 6-month term. Discreet. He blinked. A symbolic position. Yes. Silence stretched across the room like something broken and beyond repair. You really think you can run this place without me? He asked quietly. I'm not running it alone, I said. But I am rebuilding it with people who actually value trust. And that starts by ending the old chapter. He laughed bitterly. You always did love your clean endings. No, I said, but I do believe in earned ones. Arthur looked down at the desk. His hand rested on the pen, but he didn't pick it up right away. I waited. After a minute, he signed. As I stood to leave, he looked up at me. Is this revenge, David? I paused at the door, then turned back. No, this is the invoice for everything you ignored. He didn't follow me, just sat there, still and quiet, as I closed the door behind me. Hook. The former founder now serves the man he once dismissed. Plot twist. Arthur takes the role. He has no other real option. Summary. David reasserts not only his value, but his judgment. He closes the door on nostalgia and opens a path for sustainable leadership. 6 months later, the firm had a new nameplate, Blackwell Franklin. We moved out of the old building and into 3 bright floors in the Seaport District, glass walls, clean lines, no remnants of the old hierarchy. I walked into the new office each morning without that familiar weight pressing on my chest. No more closed-door power plays. No more whispers about who was getting phased out. Just a team doing real work for clients who actually mattered. My title was simple, Head of Client Strategy. But unofficially, I was the reason the firm still existed. 95% of clients had stayed through the transition. Not because we begged them, but because they knew where the real relationships were. We gave them continuity with honesty. No empty promises. No Dominic-style pitch decks. Just results. Revenue was up 23%. Not from flashy new sales, but because clients who had been quietly slipping out the back door were now doubling down. Half of the new strategy team were people I'd hired years ago at Franklin, folks Dominic had labeled stale or not scalable. Now they were thriving. Meetings that used to feel like landmines were now collaborative, fast-moving, efficient. No one missed the old culture. Dominic? Gone. Faded. Word around town was he tried to join a boutique firm in D.C. and was passed over. Nobody wanted the guy who tried to optimize loyalty and ended up hemorrhaging clients. Arthur? Still around. Technically, he had taken the consulting offer. He came in twice a week, shuffled papers, sat in on a few branding meetings. But he didn't talk much anymore. He'd become a polite ghost in a firm that had moved on without him. Sometimes I'd see him watching the younger associates through the glass. People who didn't know his name or legacy. That probably hurt more than anything else. One Thursday afternoon, Catherine Winters dropped by. She brought takeout Italian and sat with me in the common area overlooking the harbor. Not bad, she said, glancing around. You've done something real here. I corrected. You jumping ship gave this place credibility. She raised her wine cup to the most elegant takedown in corporate history. I chuckled. It wasn't a takedown. It was a rebalancing. She tilted her head. You really believe that? I nodded. I didn't destroy Franklin and Associates. I absorbed what was still good and trimmed what wasn't. Catherine studied me for a moment. You kept your integrity. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. That night, I stayed late, walking through the office floor as the lights dimmed. Desks were tidy, meeting rooms cleared. A few junior strategists were laughing quietly near the elevator. No fear, no tension, just people doing work they were proud of. I stepped into my office, sat down, and looked at the framed letter on my shelf. It was from an old client, a simple thank you note dated 2010. You didn't just advise us. You cared. That's why we stayed. That had always been the difference. Not the models, not the metrics, the trust. And now, for the first time in years, I wasn't defending my worth. I was defining it.